Joining us now is former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, and let me just add that you left out the passing of Fidel Castro and the vivid demonstration of the left's inability to tell the truth about a man who was a vicious dictator who locked up thousands and who drove hundreds of thousands off the island. So it's really been a very busy weekend.
Yeah, and to hear people talk about Castro in the way that they are is, he was a brutal, murdering, thieving dictator. I don't know what you can say good about this man, but people are threading the needle and they're finding every way they possibly can to say nice things about a murdering dictator. I find that shocking.
Well, the elite media and the left-wing academics have always loved people who are anti-American. And Fidel was sort of the most romantic of the anti-Americans. Yeah. So it's been a long love affair, which I think is very sad and a real commentary on some of the sickness in the American intellectual tradition.
That's so true. I'm weighing in where you are. I agree with you and your comments about Governor Mitt Romney. Now, let me state, I supported him in 2012. I wanted him to be the president. I still think to this day that he probably would have been a good president. But he went above and beyond and so out of his way to hurt Donald Trump and, called him everything from a racist to a misogynist, to somebody that was a huckster and a fraud and a liar and, every other insult that could go his way, and did everything possible to defeat him. Why is this even being considered? I'm having a hard time, and everywhere I went this weekend, people were asking me, why is Donald Trump even thinking about this?
Well, I don't have a good answer for that. And I also don't have a good answer for why, unless it's just to allow Romney to hang in the wind, why Trump is allowing this to go on like this. All of us who have criticized Romney have said, if the president-elect picks him, we're going to be for the president-elect's choice because, as the president-elect, he has the right to have the cabinet he wants. But all of us are piling on saying we really think it would be a huge mistake to pick him. And I've been a little surprised at how comfortable Trump has been to allow this to go on for a while. I mean, he could have stepped in and said, "I'm never going to pick him." Romney would have gone back to obscurity. He could have stepped in and said, "I am picking him," in which case we frankly all would have cut it out. But as long as it remains an open question, and frankly, when I look at the qualities of Rudy Giuliani, who has been in over 80 countries, who understands how to lead and manage a great organization, did more to turn New York City around than anybody else in modern times, just an astonishing figure. When I look at all of that, and I think to myself, there's no comparison for which person will fight harder for America, which person will represent President Trump, first of all, the State Department itself. I mean, if you're going to fight for America, you had better be prepared to overhaul the State Department because it does not have a very good tradition of understanding what fighting for America means.
That is the swamp, by the way. That is totally the swamp.
Absolutely. And so that is an example, I think, of what has to be looked at. And I feel so much more secure seeing Rudy Giuliani go into the State Department because I know that he knows how to clean it up.
Yeah,
I'm not at all convinced that that's true of Mitt Romney. Nor would it be Mitt Romney's natural instinct. I mean, he's more likely to be part of the establishment than the guy who fundamentally changes the establishment.
Some people have made the argument to me, well, Trump is looking for a team of rivals like Abraham Lincoln, and I've been arguing back. Lincoln didn't have 24/7 cable news and social media replaying over and over again all of his opponents and the horrible things they had said about him at the time, and I do think it makes a difference. What do you make of this Jill Stein, Hillary Rodham Clinton recount effort in Wisconsin, Michigan, and in Pennsylvania? Number one, in Pennsylvania, by the way, you can't file a direct request for a recount, and more importantly, I guess their belief, although even the White House and Wisconsin state officials have all said there was no outside influence at all, this belief in some bizarre conspiracy theory that Jill Stein and Hillary Clinton seem to be advancing that there was outside influence. I think this is all an effort to delegitimize Donald Trump's win.
No, absolutely. I think this is one of those cases where, remember, up until about 10 o'clock Tuesday night on Election Day, everybody on the left was counting victory. They knew they were going to win. In fact, they knew they were going to win in a landslide. They couldn't imagine in America that would elect Donald Trump. So they're still in a state of shock. And I think anything which slows down the Trump momentum automatically attracts a lot of Democrats. And I think that anything which delegitimizes him automatically attracts him. And I think what it actually does is it makes Hillary look stupid. Because the fact is, the vote margin is big enough in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania that it is literally impossible to imagine.
And it's over 10,000 in Michigan. And so it's
Michigan's the only one that's anywhere close to being close, and it's 10,000 votes. You're not going to change an election if you've got to change 10,000 votes. I don't see where they're coming from. But if you only change Michigan, it doesn't matter. Donald Trump is still the president.
Yep.
So this is one of those things where they're off. And I think if the Democratic Party is now going to become the party of weird events, would certainly, if they elect Congressman Keith Ellison as their National Committee chairman, they will be the party of weird ideas.
Well, there was a media piece that came out that said that Ellison was actually in favor of, separate parts of the United States for Black Americans.
Well, that's exactly the sort of thing I'm talking about. I mean, Ellison's, by the way, he's a very attractive, very pleasant guy. I've done shows with him. We've always had a good personal relationship. But to imagine that one of the two major parties in the United States would pick somebody who had as many different strange views as he does would be just, talk about going off a cliff and becoming a little, this happened 3 times in my lifetime to the British Labour Party. It's happened again now, and the British Labour Party is led by a guy so crazy that he currently is 70 points behind the Prime Minister. Think about that margin.
Yeah, that's massive.
Like 80 to 10. And this is the third time for the British Labour Party where they've under Thatcher they had what they called the loony left. And one of the reasons Thatcher did so well is she was always portrayed against these people who were crazy. Well, if the media covers Ellison's real beliefs, and I'm confident that a number of us will help them, I can't imagine the Democratic Party picking him, and what that would say about where they're going.
Well, if they pick him, this is a party that then goes into Louis Farrakhan territory and over a cliff, and I don't see how they get back in any short period of time. But I don't think there are any more Zell Millers or Blue Dog Democrats out there, or Scoop Jacksons. It's a rare dying breed. Look at what's happened since Obama's been president. They've lost 13, 14 Senate seats, 65 House seats. There's now 30 Republican state legislators that have changed hands. It's an uphill task every way you look at it for them. What do you think of Donald Trump? He did reach out and say, well, I don't want to hurt the Clintons. And everywhere I went this weekend, people said to me, wait a minute, what happened to lock her up? What happened to drain the swamp? What happened to,
Well, I think it's very important to draw a distinction here. If he's saying that as President of the United States, he's not personally going to lead a vendetta against Secretary Clinton, that's perfectly reasonable. And frankly, he ought to focus on the future, and he ought to focus on solving problems. But under the rule of law, there are FBI and IRS investigations that are underway, and it would be totally inappropriate, in fact, a clear violation of the rule of law, for the new president to intervene and stop them. So my hope is that what he's saying is that while he personally is not going to be trying to go after Hillary, he's going to have a hands-off approach and allow the appropriate figures to make the decisions based on the merits and in terms of reestablishing the rule of law.
To me, this isn't even in his purview. This is not his call. This will be the call of law enforcement, the FBI, the Justice Department, and the incoming Attorney General, and he shouldn't weigh in one way or the other. Am I wrong?
No, you're exactly right. It's also the IRS. Remember, there's also an IRS case underway against the Clinton Foundation. So all of that, we ought to return to the notion that justice should be blind. It should be applied equally to everyone without regard to who they are. The presidents are not part of the justice process. He does have the right to pardon people, but in order to be pardoned, you normally wait until you're guilty. Certainly at the present time, I can't imagine Hillary Clinton rushing out to say, I'll declare I'm guilty if you promise to pardon me. Plus, that doesn't solve the problem of 30 or 40 people around her who are also all implicated in this problem.
But Gerald Ford said for crimes committed or may have been committed, and the power of the pardon is absolute, isn't it?
It is absolute, and deliberately so by the Founding Fathers. So you could imagine that happening. It'll be interesting to see whether or not Obama decides to do that on the way out. But I can't imagine that President-elect Trump would execute that kind of pardon for Secretary Clinton.
Well, I don't think he would, nor do I think he should, and I think that's what people were saying. But I do think there is a distinction, saying he doesn't wish her ill, but that doesn't mean she's off the hook. And I've got to imagine that I just see Jeff Sessions as a straight shooter. The evidence proves she broke the law. She's going to be charged.
Right, and I think I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Sessions decide to convene sort of an outside counsel to advise him to make sure that nobody thinks it's a political decision either way.
All right, Mr. Speaker, great to have you. We'll have you on Hannity tonight.